This happened a few months ago. I was working night shifts at a busy city hospital. I've been a nurse for over a decade, but this was my first time at this specific place. I thought my nights would be quiet. But I was wrong. My first shift was calm at first. I was checking vital signs and restocking supplies. The fluorescent lights flickered, giving everything an uneasy glow. I checked the clock, it was around midnight. That's when I heard it. Footsteps echoed in the empty hallway. I froze. I thought a patient had wandered off. My heart raced as I rushed to investigate. But when I got there, the hallway was empty. Just silence and shadows. I was confused, but I figured I was just tired. As the weeks went by, the footsteps returned. Now they came with whispers. I often heard muffled conversations. They sounded close, but I could never quite make them out. Sometimes, I was sure they were just behind me, only to fade away. One night, I saw something move near the nurse's station. I turned quickly, but nothing was there. Just shadows from the flickering lights. It made my heart race again. One evening, I was in the break room, grabbing coffee around 3 a.m. I noticed patient files scattered across the table. I had just organized them earlier. A chill crept over me. Did someone come in while I was out? I didn't remember seeing anyone. Maybe I was losing my mind from lack of sleep. I tried to shake it off, but I felt uneasy. I cleared the table and went back to work. That night, the whispers got louder. I stood at the nurse's station, trying to focus on paperwork. Then I heard crying. It was faint but steady. I looked around, but no one was there. Panic fluttered in my chest. I decided to check the vacant rooms, thinking a patient might need help. I slowly walked down the hallway. The crying grew louder. It was unmistakable. I followed the sound, hands trembling, and then silence. The crying just stopped. The last shift was the most unsettling. I rounded a corner, and there he was. A figure stood at the end of the hallway, just staring. I asked if he was okay. He didn't move or answer. I took a step closer, heart pounding, but then he vanished. No one was there. Just the empty hallway and those flickering lights. I still don't know what to think. Maybe I was too tired. Maybe something darker lurked in that hospital. I often replay those nights in my mind. I can't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. But I have no answers, just those strange experiences that still baffle me. I wonder if anyone else felt it, too. The next shift rolled around, and I was a bundle of nerves. I tried to focus on my tasks, but the thought of what I had seen weighed on me. That figure at the end of the hallway replayed in my mind. What if it came back? I decided to confide in my fellow nurses. Maybe someone else had felt something strange. When I brought it up during a quick break, they looked at me as if I was joking. "You're just tired," one said. "The night shift can mess with your head." I nodded, but their dismissals only fueled my anxiety. Something was off in that hospital, and I needed to find out what it was. Later that night, I had to go to the supply room. It was down a long, dimly lit corridor, far from the main areas of the ward. As I walked, I noticed the temperature dropping. A shiver crept down my spine. The hallway was empty, but I felt as if someone was watching me. I hurried my pace, grabbing what I needed in record time. When I returned to the nurse's station, I felt a rush of relief, but that didn't last long. I glanced at the empty chairs, and for a moment, I could have sworn I saw a shadow flit across the floor. My heart raced, but I kept telling myself it was just my imagination. Still, I felt the weight of unseen eyes on me. Then it happened again. I was entering a patient's room to check vital signs when I heard a soft whisper right behind me. It was faint but clear enough for me to recognize, "Help me." I spun around, heart pounding in my chest. Empty. The room was vacant. My breath caught in my throat. Who was calling for help? I finished my rounds with trembling hands. The whispers seemed to follow me, echoing down the hallways. I began to wonder if I was the only one hearing them. Maybe the hospital had a history. Maybe others had experienced the same thing. I made a mental note to look into it. After my shift, I dug into the hospital's history. I found an old newspaper article about a tragic accident in the building. A patient had died during a chaotic night shift years ago. I felt a chill run through me as I realized that people suffered long before I stepped foot in that hospital. What if their spirits remained trapped, still calling for help? As I dove deeper into research, an unsettling thought took root in my mind. What if the whispers were a warning? What if the wandering spirits were trying to tell me something? I sat back in my chair, skin prickling at the thought. Then it hit me, all those unexplained feelings, the chilling whispers, and the figure lurking in the shadows, they were all connected. That's when I decided to confront my fears. I was going to face it all. My next shift would be different. I wasn't going to run from the shadows anymore. But as I gathered my things, the lights in the break room flickered violently. I then heard a soft voice, clear as day, whisper, "You shouldn't have come back." My heart sank. I froze in place. There was no turning back now. The next night shift was tense. I arrived at the hospital with a mix of determination and dread. I was going to confront whatever was lurking in those shadows. The whispers had haunted me all day. I just wanted answers. As I settled in at the nurse's station, I noticed the air felt different. It was thick and heavy, and each breath seemed to emerge with difficulty. I tried to focus on my tasks, updates to charts, checking on patients, but every time I turned my head, I felt that unsettling presence again. It was as if something was keeping watch. I worked through my rounds, my heart racing with each passing moment. As I approached the same patient's room where I had heard the whisper, my stomach twisted. I hesitated, then opened the door. The room was dark, but I had seen it plenty of times. The only sound was the rhythmic beeping of the monitor. I stepped in, scanning the bed for any sign of life. Suddenly, I caught a flash of movement from the corner of my eye. I whipped around, but again, nothing. Just the empty bed. My hands felt cold, but I couldn't look away. Then I heard a soft, desperate voice from behind me, "Help me." This time, I didn't spin around. Instead, I took a cautious step back. I could feel the chill creeping over my skin, but I couldn't let fear win. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice shaking. "What do you need?" Silence enveloped me. My heart thumped loudly in my ears. I mustered up the courage to turn around. The room was still empty, but a wave of sadness washed over me, filling the space like static. It felt wrong. Someone had suffered here. I stayed silent, hoping for a response. After what felt like an eternity, I finally stepped out. I needed to gather my thoughts. As I walked back to the nurse's station, I was distracted. I had to share my experience with someone. Maybe they would understand. I approached a colleague, Sarah, who was working the same shift. "Have you ever felt strange here? Like something isn't right?" I asked, trying to gauge her reaction. She looked at me, clearly confused. "You mean the night shift?" she said. "It's always a little creepy. But it's just your mind playing tricks. Trust me." I bit the inside of my cheek, feeling defensive. "No, I mean something real." I heard a voice. She squinted at me like I was losing it. "You should really take a break. It's probably just exhaustion. How about some coffee?" I nodded, but my mind was racing. What if this wasn't just fatigue? I could feel my anxiety building again. Still, I didn't want to pull her into my fears. I decided to ignore her suggestions, opting to investigate on my own. After an hour of restless waiting, I made a decision. I had to go back to that patient's room. I needed to understand what was going on. I grasped the doorknob and took a deep breath. But the moment the door creaked open, darkness fell over me. Then, everything went dark. The lights flickered, and I felt a presence rush past me. My heart stopped. "Help me," the voice whispered again, filled with urgency. Who was it? What did it want? I stepped further inside, all thoughts of fear fading. I had a mission now. And in the darkness, I realized I was not alone. The feeling of being watched intensified. I strained my ears, listening intently. The whispers had stopped, but the silence was even more unnerving. I could not shake the notion that something was about to reveal itself to me. I took a few careful steps into the room, my flashlight cutting through the dark like a hesitant knife. I aimed the beam at the bed. The sheets were rumpled, a clear reminder of a struggle. But only the empty space remained. The machine beeped steadily, its sound almost mocking me. "Hello?" I called softly, my voice trembling. There was no answer, just the soft hum of equipment. My heart raced with anticipation and dread. I stepped closer to the bed, peering over the side. That's when I noticed something on the floor, a small item glittering under the beam of my flashlight. I knelt down to inspect it. A silver locket. I picked it up, feeling its cool surface. It was warm from where it had lain, suggesting someone had been here very recently. Without thinking, I opened it. Inside was a picture, faded but clear enough. It showed a young girl, her eyes bright. A fragment of hope mixed with sorrow washed over me. What did this have to do with the voice? Who was she? Just then, I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye. I stood up sharply, locket clenched tightly in my hand. The door to the room creaked, and the darkness outside seemed to shift. I felt an immediate rush of cold air. Was someone out there? I moved cautiously to the door and peeked out. The hallway was empty, eerily silent. My instincts told me to turn back, to lock the door and forget I had ever entered. But something deeper urged me to stay put. I had come this far. I needed to know what was happening. Then I heard it again, a whisper, not behind me this time, but echoing down the hallway. "Help me." The voice sounded faint but was filled with desperation. I gripped the locket tightly in my fist and stepped into the corridor, drawn forward against my better judgment. The air felt colder now, wrapping around me tighter. I followed the sound, my footsteps barely making a sound on the polished floor. I walked further down, passing patients' rooms. Each door stood slightly ajar, darkness framing the spaces within. Shadows seemed to twist and bend unnaturally against the walls. Suddenly, the light flickered again, and I felt a rush of dread. The voice returned, but this time, it was clearer. "Help me." A wave of panic surged in me. I had to find the source. The locket felt heavy in my palm. That's when I noticed the door at the end of the hall. It was different. It looked older, with peeling paint and a rusted doorknob. It wasn't part of the regular floor plan. I approached it, my heart hammering. As I reached for the handle, I hesitated. Something deep inside screamed for me to turn back. But the urgency in the voice pushed me onward. I turned the knob and opened the door, a horrifying chill rushing over me, revealing a room I had never seen before. Even in the dim light, I could see something moving inside. I held my breath, gripping the locket. The mystery was unraveling, but what I would find next was something I could never have prepared for. The room was small and cluttered, filled with old furniture draped in dust. The air was stale, and an unsettling aura clung to every corner. A single flickering bulb hung from the ceiling, casting erratic shadows that danced across the walls. My grip tightened on the locket as I took cautious steps inside. And then, I saw a figure huddled in the corner. A wave of dread crashed over me. Was it a patient? I couldn't tell in the low light. I cleared my throat, trying to steady my voice. Hello. Are you okay? The figure turned slowly. My breath caught in my throat. It was a girl, not much older than the one in the locket. Her eyes locked onto mine, wide and filled with fear. Help me, she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. Where are you? I barely managed to speak. I took a step closer, my instincts screaming at me to turn back, but I was rooted to the spot. The girl pointed toward a wall, her face pale. The door, she urged, trembling. My gaze followed her finger, landing on an old wooden door at the back of the room, slightly ajar. The moment I looked away, she was gone, vanished, as if she'd never been there. Wait! I called out, panic lacing my words. My heart raced. I rushed toward the spot where she had been. Nothing but dust and shadows remained. I couldn't help but feel a cruel twist of fate as the locket hung heavy around my neck. The door creaked open wider. I took a cautious step toward it, glancing back over my shoulder as though the girl would reappear. The feeling of dread deepened, but curiosity clawed at me. I had to know what lay behind it. As I pushed the door open, a gust of cold air rushed out, forcing me to step back. Beyond the threshold, the darkness was impenetrable. I placed a hand on the doorframe, peering into the abyss. Is anyone in there? I called out, but only silence answered. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently again, and I felt a presence behind me. My skin prickled. I turned to find the girl standing in the corner once more, her expression now frantic. Don't go in. She pleaded. It was that moment I realized she was trapped, like some sort of ghostly apparition. What happened to you? I whispered, my heart racing with fear. She pointed again to the door, her eyes pleading. You mustn't open it. It's not safe. My mind raced. What could be waiting for me on the other side? Every nerve in my body screamed to run, but the locket pressed against my chest felt like a link between us. I need to help you, I said, desperate to understand this strange situation. Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway outside. They were getting closer. My heart sank as I glanced at the door. The girl's eyes widened in terror. Leave now. Before I could take a step, the door burst open, and a figure loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the light from the hallway. My blood ran cold as I recognized the shape. I was not alone in this nightmare. My stomach dropped as I faced the figure in the doorway. It was Dr. Leland, a senior physician I had only seen in passing. His sharp features were shadowed, but something in his eyes made my skin crawl. What are you doing here? He asked, his voice low and menacing. I stammered, my voice faltering. I glanced at the corner where the girl had been. She was gone again. I was just what? Talking to yourself? His lips curled into a smirk that sent chills down my spine. I took a hesitant step back, feeling the old door behind me press against my back. Before I could respond, he stepped into the room, and the flickering light overhead intensified. You shouldn't be here, especially not now, he said, his tone shifting from curious to dangerous. He scanned the clutter around us, as if searching for something. Who were you talking to? He moved closer, and the darkness seemed to thicken around him, as if he were feeding off the shadows in the room. I could smell something acrid in the air, a mixture of fear and something bitter. I thought I saw someone. A girl, I replied, my voice trembling. But the moment I said it, I regretted it. I didn't want to give him a reason to doubt my sanity. His eyes narrowed, and I could see recognition flash across his face. There's no girl here, he said flatly. You should leave while you can. Against my better judgment, I pressed on. What do you mean? I saw her. She was trying to warn me about the door. She said it's not safe. The words tumbled out, desperate for affirmation. Dr. Leland chuckled dryly. And you believe the things you see in this place? He waved a hand dismissively, but his expression shifted, growing grave. Listen to me. People get lost in here, not just physically. Spirits linger. Warnings go unheard. You look like someone ready to become part of the furniture. I felt the weight of his words, paranoia clawed at my thoughts. What are you saying? I whispered, glancing nervously around the dark room. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. This building holds secrets. What you've seen isn't just a trick of the light. It's something worse, a remnant of despair. If you think you can just help her and walk away, you're mistaken. There are forces here that want to keep you. Every instinct screamed for me to run. I couldn't breathe. I was teetering on the edge of something terrible, trapped between Dr. Leland's warning and the haunting memory of the girl. Then, without warning, the lights dimmed, and a low rumble echoed through the hall. The floor vibrated beneath me, and I stumbled. I turned back to Leland, but he was gone. The oppressive silence filled the room. In the distance, the sound of a door creaking open sent a new jolt of fear through me. That's when I saw it movement in the corner. A shadow flickered briefly, and the girl appeared again, but she looked different now, more distressed. You have to get out. It's coming. I didn't need another warning. I bolted past her, ready to flee the chaos behind me. But as I reached the threshold, I froze. Something was blocking my way. I was trapped. I turned and pressed my back against the wall, my heart beat thunderous in my ears. Panic whispered to me in frantic tones, I needed to escape. I glanced around, searching for any possible way out. My breath came in short gasps as I fought to regain control. The girl stood just a few feet away, her eyes wide with urgency. Please. You need to hurry. She pleaded, her voice wavering. But the moment I tried to respond, the shadows in the room thickened, swirling as if they had a mind of their own. Wait. I shouted, but she didn't seem to hear me. Her form flickered like an old film reel, and in the dim light, I noticed a darker shape moving closer behind her, a hulking shadow, twisting and formless. It loomed larger than I could have imagined, sinister and unnerving. Suddenly, the air grew colder, wrapping around me like ice. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was blocking the doorway was not just my imagination. I turned back, desperately looking for an escape route. The window. The floor. Anything. Listen to me. The girl urged, breaking through my spiraling thoughts. It wants you. You have to keep moving. She glanced at the shadow, fear etching her features. It was then that I felt a heavy pressure against my chest, like a weight trying to pull me down. I stumbled back, knocking into a small table filled with medical charts and pens. The clutter crashed to the ground, the noise loud and sharp, making the girl flinch. Stay focused. She cried, and I fought to shake off the sense of dread closing in around me. I had to get out. With a burst of adrenaline, I lunged toward the doorway. Just as I reached it, the shadow surged forward, crackling like static. I ducked, narrowly avoiding whatever dark force it was. The girl reached for me, her hand slipping through the shadow's edge, as if it were smoke. Don't let go. I yelled back, my voice rising over the chaos. But as I pushed against the threshold, the shadow twisted, swirling around me like a massive storm. Then everything went black. I blinked, regaining my senses. I was no longer in that cramped room. Instead, I found myself standing in a wide corridor. My heart raced as I glanced around, but the hollow silence here felt deafening. The lights were brighter, but the air was still charged with a gnawing fear. I could feel it in my bones. Something terrible lingered just out of sight. I looked over my shoulder and realized the girl wasn't with me anymore. Panic clawed at my throat. Where are you? I shouted, but only echoes responded. Up ahead, I noticed a door slightly ajar, a pale light spilling through the gap. I hesitated. What lay behind it? Should I push forward, or was that just another trap? Then, from the darkness of the corridor, a whisper floated toward me. Help me! That voice sent shockwaves straight through me. I stumbled back, dread wrapping around my heart. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was waiting behind that door was connected to everything I'd seen. Was this another remnant of despair, or a chance to find the girl again? My breath caught in my throat. I took a step toward the door, curiosity mingling with fear. I wasn't sure what I would find, but I had to know. But deep down, a nagging voice warned me, some doors should never be opened. I took a shaky breath, stepping closer to the door. The light flickered, casting odd shadows across the corridor walls. The whisper seemed trapped within that room, begging for release. Help me again, it called. Fear twisted in my gut, spurring me forward despite my instincts. I pushed the door open just a crack. It creaked, the sound echoing in the stillness. The light spilled out, illuminating a small room filled with empty hospital beds, machines coated in layers of dust, and discarded blankets. It looked abandoned, like a ghost of a place where healing had once thrived. But then I saw her. The girl from before. She lay on one of the beds, her eyes shut tight, her face pale as the sheets around her. No, I barely whispered. She looked broken, fragile. I wanted to rush to her side, but something held me back. The air felt heavy again, thick with an unexplainable dread. I stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind me with a loud bang. My heart leaped. I spun around, but the door was stuck fast. Panic surged. Let me out! I yelled, clawing at the surface. Help me! The girl whispered again, her voice barely more than a breath. I turned back to her, confusion mixing with fear. Are you okay? Her eyes fluttered open, revealing bright pools filled with terror. You have to listen. Her voice was shaky. It's coming for you. Who? I asked, the tension in my chest rising. I desperately wanted to shake her awake, to pull her from whatever nightmare held her. But before she could answer, the shadows began to stir. I could see them creeping along the walls, thick and dark, as if alive. They coiled closer, snaking toward me. I could feel them pulling at my sanity. Suddenly, the machines around us began beeping erratically, as if responding to the shadow's presence. I stepped back, eyes darting between the girl and the encroaching darkness. You have to fight it. She cried out, her voice rising above the chaos. It flourishes in fear, don't let it in. I fought to gather my thoughts, but the shadows were overpowering. I could feel their whispers clawing at my mind, trying to drag me down. What do I do? Trust me. She urged. Focus on the light. She tried to rise but slumped back down, pain etched across her features. In that moment, I remembered the light from the hallway. I closed my eyes, drawing on every ounce of courage I had. I imagined that warm luminescence, picturing it pushing back the shadows. Get away from me! I screamed, summoning a primal strength. When I opened my eyes, the shadows hesitated, colliding with my newfound defiance. But that moment of hope was interrupted by a guttural growl, a deep, threatening sound that flooded the room. Then, I saw a figure emerging from the darkness, its eyes glowing with a malevolent hunger. It was larger than I could comprehend. Suddenly, the whispering stopped, replaced by a chilling silence that wrapped around us like a shroud. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but the only way out was now covered in darkness. I looked at the girl, determination sparking through my fear. We're getting out of here. But just as I took a step toward her, the shadow lunged forward, a writhing mass, and I realized, the darkness was clever. It didn't want me alone. I grasped the girl's hand tightly, ready to pull her from that bed, but I had no idea how deep we were about to plunge into the nightmare. Would our combined strength be enough? Or was this a trap from which there was no escape? The shadows lunged closer, and I felt the cold sweat trickle down my spine. The girl squeezed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong for someone so frail. "We have to fight," she shouted, her eyes burning with intensity. "Fight what?" I yelled back, panic clawing at my voice. The figure in the darkness loomed larger, the glow of its eyes piercing right through me. "Your fear. It's feeding on it," she shouted, her voice hoarse. I could see her trembling, yet she was still urging me to stand firm. With a deep breath, I tried to regain control. I couldn't let the shadows win. I had to focus on the light. "We can do this," I shouted, though doubt crept in. Suddenly, I remembered the flashlight I had in my bag. I fumbled through my pockets, hands shaking. My fingers finally grasped the cold metal of the flashlight. I yanked it out and switched it on, aiming the beam towards the encroaching darkness. The light cut through the gloom like a knife. The shadows shrieked, retreating slightly. But the creature didn't flinch. Instead, it twisted and surged forward, its mass undulating like a thick fog. "Don't lose the light," the girl cried. I strained against the fear flooding my mind, forcing myself to keep the beam steady. "I can't hold it much longer," I shouted back. Each pulse of darkness seemed to drain my strength, like a vampire siphoning away life. "Then we have to move. Follow me." She pushed herself upright, the pain etched across her face. I was stunned by her determination. How could she still be so brave? I barely had time to process her words before the shadow lunged again, closer this time. I broke into a run, yanking her along with me. We sprinted through the once abandoned hospital, navigating through the maze of dust-covered beds and machines. "Keep the light on it," she yelled as we turned a corner, and I obeyed, casting the beam into the room behind us. The creature halted, writhing in frustration as the darkness peeled back. But I could feel it still lurking, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Every step echoed loudly, amplifying the tension in the air. The girl stumbled, and I barely caught her before she fell. Her breaths were shallow, but she pushed me with her urgency. "Keep going. There's a way out." "Where?" I gasped, desperately searching for an exit. "Through the staff lounge." She pointed to a door ahead. I could barely make out the faded letters on the glass window. We bolted for it, and I slammed the door open, skidding inside. The room was dark, cluttered with old furniture. A flickering fluorescent light hummed overhead, barely illuminating our path. That's when I saw it, a window. I rushed towards it, but just as I reached for the latch, a strange feeling washed over me. The shadows oozed into the room behind, invading with a creeping certainty. "Wait!" the girl yelled, and I froze. My heart pounded in my chest. The window won't help just yet. "Why not?" I demanded, panic rising again. "Trust me, it's a trap," she urged, her voice trembling as she glanced behind us. Before I could question her further, the figure emerged from the shadows, inching closer. I realized we were running out of time. I needed to decide fast, stick to her instincts or take my chances with the open window. But in that split second of hesitation, would soon learn what my choice would cost. With the figure nearing me, its shadows writhed like tendrils, hunger etched into its form. I could feel my heart racing as it loomed closer. Just as panic surged, I was thrown back into the stillness of the previous moments. The girl looked at me, urgency reflected in her wide eyes. "You can't let it in. We need to confront it." "Confront it?" I echoed, confusion clouding my thoughts. "Yes. Don't be afraid. Believe in the light," she shouted, desperation threading into her voice. The shadows quivered momentarily, and I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her fear. This was more than just a fight for survival, it was a test of our resolve amidst the encroaching darkness. I aimed the flashlight directly at the entity, remembering the girl's words. "Confront your fear," I told myself, gripping the light tighter. "We want to let you take us," I shouted, my voice stronger than I felt. The darkness paused, gathering itself. It pulsated, as if considering our combined determination, but then it surged forward in a rush, the air thick with menace. I centered the beam, focusing on the shadows advancing toward us. "Now!" the girl shouted, and we both moved backward, the shadows gathering energy, but we were resolute. There was a shift, a surge of defiance igniting within me. "Stay back!" I yelled again, more fiercely this time. I held the light steady, drawing on every ounce of strength I had left. The creature recoiled, its dense outline flickering as the light pierced deeper into its form. The girl's eyes shimmered with a sense of hope as she stepped forward alongside me. "Together!" she exclaimed, her determination surging. In that moment, it became clear, we were not alone in this struggle. Our shared willpower filled the room and began to push back the shadows as they shrank under the illumination. "It's working!" I cried out. But even as the darkness recoiled, the figure's fury grew. It expanded and shrieked, the sound echoing around us. I stumbled back a few steps, sensing its overwhelming dread intensifying like a storm. "Push it back," the girl urged, her voice a beacon through the chaos. In a final act of resolve, I redirected the light towards the heart of the darkness, focusing on the locket around my neck, the image of the young girl within it reminding me of what was at stake. "You will not hold us," I screamed, asserting every ounce of courage within me. The dark figure froze for a heartbeat, the shadows flickered violently, then they shrank rapidly, dissolving away. An echo of pleading cries filled the air, and the girl stood resolute, matching my determination. And just like that, the shadows vanished. We stood in silence. Breathless. My body strained, but I didn't dare turn away. I felt the girl beside me, solid and real, alive as the dimmed fluorescent lights restored some semblance of normalcy. But then I looked around, searching for any signs of movement. "Is it gone?" I whispered, my voice shaky. "Yes," she nodded, relief flooding her expression. "But we need to go. It still lingers in other parts of this place." I blinked, suddenly aware of the heavy silence that settled in. What did we just face? Was it truly gone? But before I could voice those thoughts, the door creaked open ever so slightly. A gust of cold air invited new questions. "Where do we go?" I asked, feeling a mix of urgency and dread as I recalled the intertwined paths we had faced. "Out," she said softly, but there was something in her voice, something that hinted at uncertainty. "You need to find the exit. Will you come with me?" I said, desperation creeping into my tone. Though her compassion was palpable, her presence seemed to waver, as if she were fading. "I can't," she said gently, glancing back toward the darkened corner of the room. "But you are strong. Trust yourself." My breath caught in my throat. "But I can't leave you here." Reality hit me. "You've been trapped far too long." "No, it's too dangerous." "You're not safe as long as I'm here," she said urgently. "You have to go." Despite my instinct to argue, I felt a deeper truth settle in my bones. "I have to help you." "No." The intensity in her silent plea flashed like lightning. With a look filled with clarity, she said, "Your light will always shine. You carry it with you. Now, go." And with that, I felt the air shift again. In a blink, she was back to the remnants of the shadows, flickering like a fading star. My own heart shattered at the thought of leaving her behind, but the call to escape was louder, clearer. I took a step backward, nearly stumbling over my own feet, the weight of fear trying to pull me back. But I forced myself to turn, rushing toward the exit, feeling her presence echo in my heart. As I pushed open the solid door, I burst into the hallway, breathless and desperate. But even as I ran, I could not shake the feeling that I was being watched. Was it truly over? As I reached the main exit and flung open the door, I dashed into the night air, a mixture of relief and dread washing over me as I stumbled into the free world. I looked back at the hospital, its eerie presence looming like a specter behind me. Was the darkness laying in wait beyond its walls? Would it always be there, simply hidden from sight? I didn't know, maybe there would never be a clear answer. I knew I had escaped, but something deep down told me the mysterious unrest would linger. With a deep breath, I turned my back to the building, feeling the chill of the shadows still whispering behind me. The weight of unanswered questions intensified, but as I stepped into the world beyond that threshold, I resolved to carry whatever light I found, forever vigilant.